Good evening. I'm DeeCee, and this is the third video in a three-part series looking at the expert testimony of Dr. Bill Keep when he was an expert witness in the Travelmax trial in 1997. And we will get right into it after the intro. Alrighty, I'm going to go ahead and pull the video up right now. I'm just going to share my screen. And let me grab it. Let's see. Is this the full length? I think so.
What conclusions did you reach in that case?
Okay, this is the full video, so I'm going to, I think we were right here.
Product.
Okay, so let me pop this out. And no. Close. Here we go. Alrighty. That's a little bit bigger. Hey, Avery. Hi. We are going to watch the last 20, I think the last 20 minutes, 20 or 30 minutes. I just don't know why his head is cut off, but we're going to roll with it. Okay. Oops. Let me just switch over my stream deck really quickly. Okay.
They not. Wouldn't you say that from a standpoint of
Let me know if the sound is okay.
Depending on what they were trying to accomplish.
Well, if you pick a product, when you sell a product basically that's a commodity, you can't very well go out on the market unless you really are a scam and sell the product for a lot more than everybody knows it's worth. It has an established value.
I don't believe they were selling it for a lot more than it was worth.
Okay. They weren't, were they?
No, they were not.
Well, that's a problem then, because you can't run a company where you don't have any profit or margins in the product you're selling. Is that not correct?
That's correct.
And that's why.
Okay, but how much profit is worked in?
That have been
That's the whole
around for a
point.
long time. Companies basically sell products that basically do have markups and margins so that they can pay commissions.
Margins is what allow the companies to exist.
And they're often proprietary products. Could be Avon has its own proprietary cosmetic.
Very often.
Amway has its proprietary vitamin, Neutralite. Of course, who's to say, in fact, they charge 3 times as much as if you go down to the drugstore and buy a bottle of vitamin C. I guess it's up for grabs as to what the real value of that bottle of Amway vitamins is.
I don't know that they charge 3 times as much. I've never purchased from Shackley or Amway.
Okay. I'm not asking you if they do or they don't. All I'm saying is, assuming that they do, we're not necessarily.
If y'all have questions, put them in the chat.
Getting into a pyramid scheme.
My husband's sitting anonymously
Depending
right
on the
next to me.
specific situation, if we're talking about Shackley, then I would agree with the statement that the incentive is not to get into a pyramid scheme per se.
Now, those are considerably more expensive than what you'd find. Like a bottle of vitamin C, a Shackley bottle would be considerably more expensive than what you'd find at the store. I think you're probably aware of that.
I honestly have never purchased a product from Shackley or seen their price list.
Okay, that's right. This is not your area. But the problem with Gold Unlimited was they picked a product that had really no promise for a profit margin, and so they couldn't pay. There was no profit there to pay commission. Is that correct?
They had some products that had potential for margin, but the product that they seemed to be promoting the most did not.
Yeah.
For significant enough margin.
Right. And if Travelmax sold a mere commodity for which there could be no profit margin, we would also be somewhat suspect.
I'm going to pause it really quickly. Is he trying to say that Travelmax is legitimate because they've worked that profit isn't evil, or working a profit into the price of something isn't evil? Or like strategy wise, what's the lawyer doing?
Where does the
Sorry, Avery. This is OG footage of. Do you know who Dr. Bill Keep is, Avery? If you do, the guy on the stand. This is him back in the day when he was first beginning to be an expert witness for prosecutions when they were trying to hold multi-level marketing companies to account. This is in the state of Kentucky. And okay, so Dr. Bill Keep, he's done a lot of work for like trying to warn people about the dangers of multi-level marketing. He I think he's spoken with Roberta before, but he's a bigger name. I think he was on the board of the FTC at one point. He is retired now, but he has a Ph.D. In business. And so this is the guy who's questioning him is Jeff Babiner, who represents a ton of multi-level marketing companies as legal counsel. He helps I guess keep them out of court, and he defends them if they do get sued on the state level. And he has a whole website of basically touting the benefits and legality of multi-level marketing companies. I think what he's getting at is that pyramids have to have huge prices to pay every level. The suggestion is that Travelmax has reasonable prices, therefore evidence against it being a pyramid scheme. Okay. So yeah. Yeah. And so it was so long. I think it's actually 2.5 hours long. And the YouTube channel that I pulled this from had loaded it up in sections. And so I put them all together, but I think I accidentally cut off Jeff's head accidentally. So this is the very end of his testimony. And so Babs, as we call him, is finishing out his questions of Dr. Bill Keep.
money come from?
I would certainly consider that as part of my analysis.
Of course, another troubling part of the Gold Unlimited case, perhaps even more troubling, was the fact that people put a down payment on a product and got other people to put a down payment on a product. And commissions were paid before product was ever delivered.
I believe that was a contributing factor.
That was a major factor, wasn't it? Their layaway program.
I think
In fact, many people didn't ever even get their product.
that's what I was told.
Yeah. I mean, you would have to say that it is problematical in a company.
That's his favorite word, problematical.
Put down a down payment, and before product is even delivered, people are being paid commissions. People are being paid commissions on it. Would you agree? I'm not talking about buying a product and then taking some time to deliver. I'm talking about just making a partial down payment.
I would agree with your characterization of Gold Unlimited as having in their primary product very low margins, and the process of people putting down payments and commissions paid before
Yes,
the product is delivered.
A true
Was
word, which I was
were those
completely surprised
factors
about.
important in my analysis? Yes, they were. I'm not sure if that answers your question.
No, you're good.
I'm not, this is not a trick question. I'm just trying to see what that case was about. Because it had a negative ending for the owners of the company. I'm trying to make sure, see if maybe we can differentiate that from this case. There's no evidence here that people put a down payment on a product and get other people to put a down payment.
We're better
on a
than those
product, and so
other
on and so
pyramid
on.
schemes.
I'm not aware of that.
No.
Your Honor, I must point out that Mr. Perkins did testify that he paid for a tri-pack, that he did not receive that tri-pack in full. That evidence is in the record.
Your Honor, yeah, one distributor with a refund problem is not exactly what I'd call. I don't think that was the basis.
And I guess spoiler alert: the state of Kentucky lost this. Whatever it's this stop
Anyhow,
to business.
So the Gold Unlimited program, basically, it
Better
really,
than the
to
other
some extent, it
schemes.
wasn't
Does
even
that mean they
constructed
admit they
to
are
sell
one?
the product, it really was a recruitment scheme. Is that not correct?
There were products and there were.
Yeah, isn't that a faulty line of logic that we're at least better than those other people that got in trouble? And so, I mean, isn't that kind of like an opening a door if you're arguing this?
There were aspects of
He's
the
going
Gold
to answer in the
Unlimited,
comments.
in my analysis that actually were what I would characterize as retailing products with potential margin. I would say that the major focus of Gold Unlimited was recruitment for the sole purpose of recruitment.
Was the gold coins. That's what drove Gold Unlimited. The down payments, the layaway program on gold coins that may or may not ever got delivered, but people got paid commissions.
That was the main.
A product for which there was basically no profit in it to begin with.
That's what drove the growth.
And in reality, it was just a Ponzi scheme, because in that type of a program, you required new money coming in to pay old. Is that correct?
I'm not familiar with the technical definition of a Ponzi scheme, but I would agree with the fact that new money is coming in to pay commissions.
And that happens when you don't have real products. I mean, that can happen when you don't have real products. One thing.
Or you don't have real margin.
Oh, real margins, yeah.
Okay. And in the end, you got nothing to show for it. I mean, you don't necessarily have gold coins in the hands of people. You don't have products in the hands of people. It's not going anywhere.
Depending on where you are in the organization, you may or may not have anything to show.
Legally, maybe not, but in practice and reality, maybe. Depends on where the law draws the line. And this is in the state of Kentucky. So also laws differ state by state.
You may have a lot to show for it.
Okay. Well, it certainly doesn't result in $5 million a month in travel bookings, does it?
Well, I mean, debatable.
They didn't sell
You
it.
can't argue with the reality of $5 million a month in travel bookings. If
I thought they were
if the
packed. I
journey
thought they were
is,
5 million in
I
travel
got a
packs.
company, I want to get to be one of the premier travel agencies in the country, you can't argue with that sort of a volume, can you?
It seems to me that you're asking me to make a connection that I'm having a difficult time making in my analysis. You're asking me to make a connection between the fact that the company sold
Unfortunately, not
lots
every
of,
evil is illegal.
in your word, product, in the forms of these different, the tutorial and the VIP pack, with the growth of travel bookings. That seems to me the connection you're asking me to make. I'm suggesting to you in my analysis that connection is very weak, because the incentives are more on selling the product than on using the product as a booking product.
Okay. Well, we've already established the per capita production.
I know the state lost this specifically, but didn't they close down after? If so, in a sense, they won. Yes, they did close down very shortly after this. Basically, the state of Kentucky legally told them to stop, and then they were forced to stop, and then they had to have this trial to see if that would be lifted. It was lifted, and then they closed down again very shortly after.
in travel bookings alone.
We've established the average, based on figures you gave me, we've talked about the average per capita production. I would not like to take that as my final conclusion in that
No.
area.
You wouldn't take it into your conclusion, or it wouldn't be your conclusion.
I would,
You take all facts into
Let him
your
answer.
analysis.
no offense, but I would not consider information coming from you being necessarily a fact.
I'm
Well,
clipping
this.
this.
Isn't evidence.
Well, if I
Don't
wanted,
take my word for it. We already have testimony from Mr.
That was
Paisley.
so
The company
sassy.
does $5 million a month.
if you asked me,
So please don't take my word for it.
okay,
I want you to assume it because it's an evidence.
I believe they do $5 million a month. You hypothetically, or not hypothetically, you said to me there's 20,000 reps. I don't know that for a fact. I would like to see information from inside the firm before I made my own determination.
There has been testimony
We
already
all would.
about the number of reps the company has.
I
Snap.
have not seen that evidence.
Don't you think that's something that you would have wanted to know from Mr. Turner before you testify?
Your Honor, at this point, I'm going to object. As you well know, the Commonwealth has requested discovery, in part of which the information was information that we felt was very important for Dr. Keith to review. As you well know, because of the timing of this matter and motions made by plaintiffs, some of that discovery has not been forthcoming. Now,
Ooh.
quite frankly, we feel that
So
touting
that's
this
saying
number
that
of $5
Abner
million
didn't give it
per
over?
month in travel bookings
He's
is
nodding
somewhat
yes.
misleading. Because the question that we're looking at here is what are the amounts, if this is a relevant question, the inquiry should be, what is the amount of travel bookings arranged in the Commonwealth of Kentucky? If that is to be a question relevant to this inquiry.
Well,
As you well know, when we asked that question of their so-called expert, Mr. Paisley, he simply came
So-called.
to Kentucky with knowing he's going to testify about activity occurring in Kentucky, but chose not to have that information with him for it.
Okay.
There's so much shade being thrown right now.
The problem is there's, first of all, does it matter? I mean, that's what experts have to testify about. Do the legitimate sales of business matter? Secondly, there was some evidence or explanation offered that it takes time to catch up, bookings to catch up with agents. I mean, that was something I remember
That's
from
fair.
Back before. I understand that you don't have all the discovery, and as this litigation commences on the final merits at some point in time, you will obviously have all that discovery. But you got to keep in mind that you're asking for a full judgment here, and then let's have the case. I mean, you've got the restraining order. You're wanting to keep it in place.
Right.
So, I mean, I've got to give them a lot of leverage here to try to demonstrate that let's at least have the trial before we lose the case. I mean, and I understand what you're saying. If this is being done out there and consumers are being damaged, it ought to stop now, and we can prove it. But I can't be too sympathetic right now to the fact that you haven't gotten total discovery.
Because, Your Honor, I think the point that we're making is that the characterization that counsel is making of the evidence of record is incomplete. And
So like they're trying to discredit the witness when they haven't necessarily been given all that information to prevent him from being discredited. He's typing in the chat.
I think what I hear Dr. Keith saying.
Well, it was testified to. I mean, somebody did get on the stand and testify. It may be, you may find out in discovery that it was totally wrong, or it was misleading the way it was testified to, or something like that. But he's not talking about something that wasn't testified to. They did bring somebody in here to say this is what we've done.
And that's partial information. And I constantly hear the witness saying, I would need further information to reach my own conclusion on
Good
these
point,
matters. And
Kentucky.
I don't know what his objection is, Your Honor. You know, he can do whatever he wants on
Oh,
redirect.
your
I'm
babs.
just trying to find out. We're all on a journey here, looking for.
For background here, in this preliminary hearing, the state is asking to keep Travelmax from doing business in Kentucky pending a full trial.
His analysis. They put him on. I'm just trying to find out what sort of things a marketing professor would think are important to take into account.
All right, you may proceed.
There was a case, Dr. Keith, as I mentioned, the leading case is Dare to Be Great. Do you know any of the facts of those cases?
No, no, no.
that case? You don't? They were selling motivational courses. Does that ring a bell?
Motivational courses.
Yeah, slightly. I'm really not attempting to make myself familiar with the Dare to Be Great program.
I'm not, don't take this wrong, but if you were my witness,
Don't take this wrong, but I'm about to insult you.
if you were my witness, Dr. Keaton, and there was one reported case in the state of Kentucky, and you were my expert witness, and that was the case that talked about legitimate multi-level marketing versus pyramiding,
Be nice.
don't you think that I would have asked you to read that case?
Oh,
I don't know what you would have asked.
You're not
Rude.
prepared, fully prepared in terms of giving your opinion. Would you say your testimony really has got to be regarded as incomplete, not having looked at the one and single
Dare to
and
Be
leading
Great
case?
sounds like
No, I'm
every
going to
MLM
object
sales
again.
pitch.
The witness has already testified that he is not here to express any legal opinion. I think the witness has expressed his opinion in terms of how he views this Travelmax program from a marketing perspective. And for him to be asked to analyze the one reported case in Kentucky on that particular point, that is for counsel on both sides to argue and the court to determine whether, based on the facts presented by experts and others, whether that statute has in fact been violated pursuant to those cases.
I'm not asking for a legal opinion. All I'm saying, Your Honor, is that this is a gentleman who is given.
So let me ask you a question. Do you think that Babs is making good points when he's talking, when he's interviewing this expert witness, even though we're not fans of Babs? Or do you think that the lawyer for the state of Kentucky is not being maybe as effective as they could be to address when they are bringing up objections or points of issue with Babs? He's gonna write in the chat.
An analysis as to whether or not something, we have the factors of a pyramid versus legitimate marketing, and we have one beacon in the night for this court talking about factors, factually, factors that determine whether or not something is legitimate marketing or is pyramid. And my question to him again was,
What is your
Dr.
question?
Keith, don't you have to honestly say that you're really not adequately prepared to be giving this type of testimony in this case, not having read that case and not even being familiar with the factors that were being talked about?
No. And let me explain why.
Yes, you may.
Babs seems to be making some valid points, not crazy about his style. I don't think anyone in the chat is crazy about his style.
Every one of these multi-level or network marketing organizations.
The other of his points
are
I like
structured
less.
different. We've even agreed to that. Each one has different compensation programs. Each
Okay, well, once you're finishing answering another question, I have another question.
one has different levels of operations. Each one is different in how people are allowed to move around. It comes in a variety of formats, some of which I am aware of, some of which I am not. The fact that I am not aware of the one format that was prosecuted successfully here in Kentucky does not, I think, in any way limit my ability to analyze this particular operation in terms of the incentives that are in.
The attorney for the state is annoying. He never states a basis when he objects. You need to cite a rule of evidence when you object. I think that's I'm not a lawyer, but that sounds fair to me.
Place to induce people into certain activities. And I was asked to analyze those activities to say, is this retailing? And my conclusion is that part of it is retailing, and I won't go through all that again, but that a large component and the strongest incentive is to get people to buy these products, whether or not they choose to use them, but mostly to get people to buy these products who want to get other people to buy the product.
Okay, the statute, the word retailing doesn't appear in the statute at all. And this is a term you brought into the picture.
isn't it assumed that if you have a business that you have to sell something or you have to be like, I don't know.
That's what I was asked to look at.
Okay.
Because this is a form
But
of
you were
retail.
asked to do that in the context of whether or not this company is a pyramid. Come on, you
Again.
gotta be honest.
Your Honor.
If you had it to do over again, you'd want to know what
The
that
witness
case is
has clearly
about.
stated what the Commonwealth asked him.
Okay, so what objection would you have done? Because he's not objecting at the table. What should he have objected? I mean, he's obviously talking now, not Babs, but the state of Kentucky. He's answering in the chat.
I'm here to provide.
There's
Now,
a lot of things that
we
we should
looked
do.
at.
Oh, wait a minute. Let him answer the question.
Let me, what were you were specifically asked to come here and tell us whether this was retailing or not?
What I was asked to do, they said, we have a situation here that we think might be a pyramid scheme. They claim to be a legitimate retailer. We would like you to look at this and see if this is retailing. And if there's aspects of it that you don't consider to be retailing, we'd be interested in that.
Okay, so you're saying that there are aspects that you don't consider to be retailing. There are some. There are strong incentives that are not retailing. It's
Yes, sir.
more in recruitment. But you're not giving an opinion that that violates any statute or that it's pyramid or anything of that sort. Is that
That's
am I
correct.
And he can't.
Let me ask a
Because
question.
he's
I
not
was
a
wondering this
lawyer.
earlier. Here, go ahead.
So for the question earlier about what the objection would be, he said relevance for one, the retail expert's legal opinion is a who cares situation. Yeah, he's not a lawyer. And okay, here's just as I know you don't like Babs's style. Babs keeps trying to ask the expert witness to give, I think, a legal opinion. Is that on purpose? And is he, when you're doing things like that, is that like asking the witness to step into a trap of some kind and then you get in trouble because they're going to say, oh, you're not a lawyer. How can you know? How can you know? He's answering in the chat.
When you work for a company, you know, in marketing, I believe that was part of your history.
Yes, sir.
Aren't you required? I mean, it just seems to me to make sense that you would need to know what is legal and what is not. I know you're not lawyers, but I mean, like
Okay,
you
I
wouldn't
guess the
say we
judge
can
is
make
answering this
twice
properly.
more on this if we fill it with air halfway or something. You know, then, I mean, something's got to go off in your mind that we'll also go to prison if we do that. Don't you have to know something of the law in the area in terms of?
I don't know what Babs is thinking. If I were the judge, I would roll my eyes at this line of questioning.
Giving advice to a company on this marketing scheme is legit or it's not?
Absolutely. I think you do have to know something about the law depending on the kind of advice you're giving. I mean, if you're advising people on how to train people, that's different than advising people on how to price their product, because there are some pricing laws that could violate that. Or if you're advising people on hiring practices or advising people on how to make up advertisements.
Right.
I'm looking at this from a compensation standpoint in terms of retail activity. I'm aware of what I consider to be, I'd like to rephrase it. I'm aware of methods of compensating retail employees.
Mm-hmm.
And it's my general belief in business that employees will act in directions that you compensate them most. They will engage in those activities where they get the most compensation.
I think that's what he's saying now is very, like, we see that in multi-level marketing companies today and behavior of independent consultants, because they get compensated better for recruiting, and we see them attempting to recruit more. So like, just as him describing that behavior, I think at least I've seen that. I don't know if the replay crew has seen that or people in the live chat have seen that, but that's what I've seen.
And I think, although I don't have it with me right now, I think I could provide evidence of that. So what I look for here is this is a company that says we are a retailing firm. And multi-level marketing or network marketing is a form of structuring a sales force. So this is all about a sales force. So I looked at
Oh,
compensation
that's why it's so
programs
pixelated.
that are associated with the activities of the sales force. And there are all kinds of legal issues I suppose you could get into, but
Is it also more than that? Are these also consumers of the company initially?
they could be consumers, they could be retailers, wholesalers. Because, as I mentioned up on the board, I won't use your time up, but they could.
So I think also Babs cut some of his time up at the board so that this video would make his point look the best, or this testimony look the best, because he did not include that in this expert witness clip that he uploaded to YouTube.
Engage in any one of those activities.
I mean, I was trying to,
Right.
this is very important to a lot of people. And there's a lot of people on both sides of this courtroom, and I'm trying to make sure I understand it as clearly as I'm capable of.
So, Dave,
Which may not be too clear. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I guess all I was saying is, you've acted as an expert only one other time.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay, so you're new in this business. Okay.
as a, is it an issue? Do you see an issue as a practicing lawyer that an expert witness had not been a witness before? Would that prevent you from using this type of person?
But if you were my witness in this case, and you haven't read this most important guideline about what was going on here, then one of us should be fired. Wouldn't you agree?
I would not agree. And the reason I wouldn't agree is if the compensation program was set up radically different than this one, I don't think it would be relevant.
But we don't even know about it, do we? Because we didn't read it.
That's correct. I did not read it.
So we could learn from it.
But I didn't even make the comparison because I was only interested in this compensation program.
Well,
How am I going to learn?
Go ahead.
How am I going to learn from something that's so dissimilar? In other words, if
Good
it's
point.
a similar operation, maybe I can learn something from it. But if it's dissimilar, my focus was
Depends on all the circumstances. You'd prefer to have the experienced witness, if possible, makes it stronger.
on look at the way these people are structuring their sales force and the commissions that they give their people. Is this retailing activity, wholesaling activity, non-retailing? What do you see here? And that's what I focused my efforts on. I never tried to label this according to different forms of multi-leveling, this or that. I don't care whether it's binary or non-binary. All I want to do is figure out where do people get paid to do what they're asked to do. And is that retailing, from my knowledge, of retail?
I think that's fair. I don't know. I guess I'm biased.
I want to interject again, if you don't mind, while you're waiting. Can't the incentive for the company be totally different than the incentive
Someone more experienced might not have been available, or maybe they don't come across as well on the stand.
for the distributor? What I'm suggesting is if the company gets enough people to do this, then there are more people with these cards and these numbers to call and make their trips. All over. I guess I'm just saying that, and particularly if, and I don't know how the compensation, I'm still trying to figure out how it all works, but particularly if down the line distributors are paying the incentive to the new distributors, or the new distributor paying the old distributors, the company's still getting its message out. It's still getting that we're there to book travel for you, or we can book travel for you without buying 30 minutes during the Super Bowl to advertise that we're here in competition with somebody else or something.
Yes, John. I think, to get back to your original point, I think that if I was characterizing this to be entirely retail activity, then I would expect to see incentives based on travel.
Just really quickly, I'm going to interject. I'm just going to read Dr. Bill Keep's bio. It's very short, but just to give you an idea, William W. Keep, Ph.D., is a professor of marketing, and he's the former dean of business and interim provost at the College of New Jersey. He has assisted state and federal prosecutors in the prosecution of pyramid schemes and has been quoted in the press, The Atlantic, Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg, BusinessWeek, Financial Times, New York Times, Forbes, etc., as an expert on multi-level marketing. With Dr. Peter Vander Nat, Senior Economics, FTC retired, Dr. Keep published academic articles on multi-level marketing, pyramid schemes, and the evolution of direct selling in the United States.
These people are being paid and encouraged to get people to travel, specifically through Travelmax. I would agree that there are lots of things in there that are going to sort of slow that process down. You know, this being in a, without making a comment about Travelmax, but being in a Amway or some recognized legal multi-level marketing situation, it's hard work. And some people get in it and go, this is a lot more work than I thought it was going to be. So you're going to have people joining that will generate minimal amount or no travel at all in the case of travel. So there's not going to be necessarily a one-to-one correspondence. But I would expect that if the company was ultimately interested in travel, that the bulk of the commissions and the bulk of the activity would be to get people to travel.
Okay, I don't want to revisit this too much again, but of course that assumes you're making the assumption without any evidence that the company doesn't regard and doesn't have as its plan also.
I think he was saying, like, hypothetically, that's what he would imagine that the numbers would reflect if he was able to say from his experience that a retail business seems like it would behave this sort of way. And then Babs is coming in hot again.
So the interest in selling its VIP getaway products or its tutorials as are sold in the Wall Street Journal, Robb Report, and other places. That's the assumption you're making. You just plain ignore their other products and you write them off as if they're of no value, of no consequence, and the end justifying factor is travel bookings. Isn't that correct?
No, I didn't write them off as being of no value. In fact, earlier you asked me if I thought these had value, and I said they do. I think they do have value. I said I could not, I think the marketplace should determine that value. I can't put a number on it. So I think they are selling, there is a product that's associated, that is part of this process that has value. It's not valueless. I had no evidence in what I looked at regarding outside activities to sell this product in terms of, maybe the company selling, just not going through any multi-level at all, just, do you want to buy one of these products? I don't have any evidence of that activity. So I couldn't analyze it. If I would have had evidence, would I have analyzed it?
You have evidence of other companies' activity. There are many other companies long before Travelmax that were marketing this type of a product in the marketplace.
I wasn't asked to analyze those companies. I was asked to analyze this company.
Travelmax is the issue.
Well, you learned a little from the Golden Limited. Of course, I guess you learned about what was not right, I assume.
I'll generally agree with that. I didn't make the legal determination, and I don't know what specific laws that they were found guilty
But I
of.
think we can agree that having economic incentives to induce people in multi-level marketing company to buy products, that exists throughout the industry. The fact of there is an economic incentive. We've already agreed to that. And that doesn't turn it into a pyramid.
No.
And the personal purchase of product for personal use doesn't turn it into a pyramid.
No.
And in fact, if basically what is being sold and what is being paid on is product, then basically the product is not incidental to the opportunity, is it?
I honestly think that's sort of the crux of the issue.
I wish they would meet.
Let's learn just a little bit. I know you didn't read the Dare to Be Great case.
He keeps digging on this, and it's just annoying.
Let's look at a few of the negative factors. I just want to know if you agree or disagree. In the Dare to Be Great case, they were selling motivational courses for $1,000.
$1,000?
People basically were brought in. They were taken to local resorts where they were hyped on the opportunity. Did you find any evidence in the Travelmax case of people being bussed off on what were called in Dare to Be Great go tours to local resorts?
Why would that matter?
I did not see any evidence of them taking them to local resorts.
Is that like a deceptive business practice, like luring them in for the opportunity by whining and dining them?
In the Dare to Be Great case, the court found the program was problematical because
He loves that
the
word.
product was either not used or was not delivered. You would agree that that is problematical.
Oh,
I would think that would be a problem.
From experience, we have found that a consultant who begins with an initial
Oh,
wholesale
no.
order of at least $600 is the consultant who does the best.
hold on.
You mean the company
I must have grabbed the wrong tape. Oh, no. He must have played over it because it's right in the middle of this. Okay.
read it, I thought, geez, that's not the case I was in.
Well, maybe-
So I don't know which one he's referring
You
to.
can testify about that, but all I'm doing is referring to the sole reported case in Kentucky as reported by the Kentucky court.
The appellate opinion would set forth what the
Fact.
fact and the law of the case is, even if it's,
This
believe me,
guy
I've had
looks like
some in
he's
here that I
just
wondered if
chilling
it's
out.
got the right tapes.
Well, Your Honor,
I should say that
Point
about
that-
All I asked him, Your Honor, all I'm asking the witness, I'm going through some things that I'm asking him are problematical. Is it problematical if you have a company that has, that doesn't have a direct selling company, that doesn't have a buyback policy?
I would think that would work as a negative for the company. No, I don't think that would make it against the law or a pyramid scheme.
Yes. Travelmax has a buyback policy, does it not?
Yes, it does.
Matter of fact.
But
its
not
policy
having a
exceeds
buyback policy
the
doesn't make
standard
it a pyramid scheme.
Of the Direct Selling Association, does it not?
I do not know that for sure.
Direct Selling Association requires 1 year buyback policy. Travelmax gives 100 at 90%.
The Direct
1
Selling
year.
We are
Association is
getting
a
into a
private
closing argument,
organization,
so he
isn't
just
it?
said he's not familiar with those policies, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. In a Dare to Be Great case, people were encouraged to basically make presentations along the lines of fake it till you make it. Would you agree that that would be problematical?
Wow.
I think that would be a negative in the program.
Telling people that you're really doing well when in fact you're going into debt?
I would, there are
Yes, people
companies that
still
do
do
that and then still end up being successful, but I would not personally think that would be a good policy.
Not a good marketing practice.
Is he going to say, well, that's not encouraged in our actual official documents, so we're not a pyramid scheme?
I think there's always a little bit of bravado in any kind of marketing.
Well, there's bravado in Travelmax, but there's no evidence whatsoever of fake it till you make it syndrome, is there?
I didn't see any statements like that.
In the Dare to Be
Wow.
Great case, people were encouraged to go out and borrow money so that they could make these purchases and then to tell other people to go out and borrow money. That's problematical, wouldn't you agree?
Sometimes people are encouraged to borrow money in an investment that returns greater than what they've borrowed at. It would be something that I would want to look at if I was analyzing that case.
But telling somebody to go out and borrow money to buy a $1,000 motivational course and then having them go out and tell other people to do that, that's not really a good business practice, wouldn't you agree?
I wouldn't recommend my son to do it.
There's no evidence of that type of behavior in the Travelmax case, is there, to your knowledge?
I never
Well-
saw, from what I read, anyone ask anyone to go borrow money.
I guess I don't understand because I'm not a lawyer, but what is the purpose of comparing Travelmax to this company that got in trouble? Is he just trying to just say we're not anything like this company that got in trouble with the state of Kentucky? He's writing in the chat.
I have it. There would be a great case in front of me. I'm really at a loss. I've read the decision. I'm not finding any references to all the points the council is making here. Are you referring to the transcript of the trial?
Object or something officially.
Okay, could you?
You can find out yourself.
I don't help you find it, but you can't help me find it. Okay.
Wow, rude. Rude,
I
bad.
just don't see that, what he's referring to in this case. So.
I don't think he would.
Yes, apparently only one company has gotten in trouble for being a pyramid in Kentucky.
He would try to lead me to believe that he's quoting from a case when he's not, because he
Babs
would
is
certainly
trying
know
to
that I'll read
contrast
the case.
his company from that one company.
Where he was reading from, at least where
Is that a normal strategy when you're litigating a case or whatever the right term is?
the reference was coming from.
Arguing a case?
Well, Your Honor, I'm reading page 226. The scheme thus developed into a pyramid selling theoretically each new 2 enrollees would in turn bring in 2 more enrollees, and each of them in turn would bring in additional 2 enrollees. By this pyramiding of earnings, et cetera, well, you can read that, Your Honor.
Well, maybe you should continue to read that statement for the purpose of the witness.
What I would really like to do is finish the questions. It's
Yes.
4:45, and I'm not going to be able to stay too much longer. I'm sure this witness would like to be
4:05, I
excused
gotta
for the
go.
day, if at all possible today.
Oh, my
I come
God.
back tomorrow.
I'm just about done then, Your Honor.
For closing arguments, this is weird for a witness examination.
There are elements in leading direct selling company programs you would agree that are good business principles in the direct selling industry. There are some that we can identify.
I think there are some very successful direct selling firms that I believe probably have some very sound principles to them.
Have good, okay,
Which ones would those be?
let me just go through a list of a few, and I think that we're done. I just want to know if you agree with these principles. No purchase requirement other than that cost sales kit.
Okay, yes, I agree with that.
And we verified already that that is the case with Travelmax. No inventory purchase requirement. You agree with that principle?
No requirement, but that doesn't mean
Well-
that it's not available for purchase
Again,
or encouraged.
Well, on all these
well,
programs.
the reason I'm hesitating is because you're going to say, do you agree? And then you're going to say, well, we established as a Travelmax. I don't know. I haven't established, there's no inventory. People buy a product, buy $800 to qualify themselves. That's buying inventory. Well, that's not inventory loading, but that's buying inventory. You're asking me about inventory loading, or you're asking me about buying inventory?
Required inventory purchase requirement.
No, just because it's not
They buy
required doesn't mean it's
$800
not
worth of
encouraged to
value.
do.
If they choose to resell that, the period they have, I would consider it inventory.
So I have another question for you. In this situation, he's making this point where he's saying there's nowhere written that there is an inventory purchase requirement. Well, that was the same case in Mary Kay Cosmetics that I was in. Yet I still had that inventory call about setting me up for success for my customers. And I can imagine that was the same case in Travelmax. There's nowhere officially that probably was written down. And but when you then take that situation and you bring it to court, because that was never written down on official paperwork, the company's just they're just like, well, we didn't say you had to do that. And so we can't get in trouble because it's not written down on paper. That was a very odd question, but I'm just wondering, can companies get in trouble for things that are not written down in their manuals?
But there's no inventory requirement.
To qualify their center, it's a requirement.
Well, remember, we already established.
Oh,
the
Babs,
individual
stop it.
doesn't have to buy anything. He can just sell to others.
No, we didn't. I didn't.
Well, should we come up again with that compensation plan? I thought we went through this. We identified.
Can we have a stipulation that you can, that for $25 you can sell travel? I mean, is that in the brochure somewhere?
Your Honor, again, in my opening statements, I presented to the court that basically this would be a case about whether form shall rule over substance. I think the problem here is that the Commonwealth can and is willing to stipulate to the fact that there are.
Sure, it all depends on the facts and circumstances. How strong was the statement and who made it? Could not necessarily the strength of the statement, but the number of independent contractors, would that factor in? Like, even if it wasn't recommended by the company, but it was an accepted practice?
Are a variety of ways, specifically 3, in which these so-called products can make it to marketplace, if you will. Whether it's the intellectual product being the tutorials or the VIP package. I think what happens here is when the presentation happens, there is absolutely no focus for the most part on which of those 3 methods a person should take. In fact, at least as I see the video, and I think as several witnesses have indicated, the focus seemed not to be on get it and resell it to somebody else, but get somebody else to buy it in Travelmax. That's the testimony, and I think that's where the confusion here is in terms of, well, is this inventory versus inventory loaded? Because there are several things happening simultaneously.
Yeah, I mean, I think I understand what you're saying, that no one's required to purchase anything, or they can purchase the $25. But you're saying in practice, what goes on is make the big money, you need to purchase these 3.
I think the videotape specifically shows that people are specifically told in order to make commissions, you're required to buy at least 1 business center and
Potentially goes back to what Kentucky attorney is talking about right now. Should form, what the manual says, rule over substance, what is actually going on.
encourage strongly to buy 3.
You're going to object to the buying of a business center. We've been over that a couple times. You do not buy a business center.
Your Honor, the defendant's own language refer to this throughout as BC 001, 002, et cetera, and they specifically refers to it as
buying a business center. That is a business center, but it's not buying a business center.
All right, let's go on for
Let me take a
question.
different direction. I didn't think we had a disagreement about this because if you're an Amway or Shackley, you need to meet your personal wholesale volume. That's a purchase requirement in order to qualify for your commissions. But we would not call that a required inventory requirement, would we?
I would, to get back to the source of confusion, at least in my mind, you asked me about the $25. When I first laid out the program, given my analysis, it was never clear to me what a person could or couldn't do, or what kinds of commissions they would make if they purchased the $25 option. I could not find any evidence, and no place did I ever read where if you purchase a $25 option, you then qualify for 40% of the agent's commission. I never found that in anything I read. And I tried to find out in my analysis, given the information I had, what you got for the $25. You do get the sales kit, and you're a member. I just was looking for incentives, commissions, those kinds of things that would be activity, incentives and commissions associated with activity at the $25 level. And so my source of disagreement here is simply that I don't agree that based on my analysis, the $25 allows the person to then effectively represent and collect commissions on travel.
Well, of course it doesn't, because you have to be a travel agent if you're going to get commissions on travel.
Oh,
Commission-
You get commissions on the sale of other products. When I was up there, didn't we make it clear that basically you can sell these products, be an order taker only? As a matter of fact, Mr. Turner was willing to stipulate to that. Are we not in agreement on that?
Your Honor, we would be more than willing to stipulate that basically there are people who will simply come into this for one purpose and one purpose only, and that being to buy, once they buy the tribe,
join this company, pay $25, get a sales kit, and he can work his way up through the program, qualifying for his personal sales volume, either by buying wholesale for resale or personal use, or
Okay.
by merely being an order taker, going out and getting a customer to buy that VIP package. You can move through the program either way.
There's no language that I read that indicated what that $25. I understand what you're referring
He
to.
just put his hand up
But
to him.
what I think is a gap in my understanding, Your Honor, is that I never read in any instructions that if
He's
you
like
come in at
completely away from
$25,
Babs.
you can then buy the pack and sell it, and that procedure is somehow a separate procedure from the $500 I'm now part of the organization. I never saw any language that talked about that.
Okay, well, I'd like you to read out loud 2 and 2A.
His style, Babs's style comes across as really condescending.
I can't do that without reading the first one.
2. Well, you want to read 1?
Yes.
Read 1.
Okay. Create your business centers by becoming an independent representative with Travelmax International. Qualify each of these business centers with $800 in personal sales volume. This can be accomplished in 3 ways. Do I continue, Don?
Yes, I want you to read 2A.
Retail, sell 2 Travelmax International products or services to 2 customers. Wholesale, sponsor 2 people who become independent sales representatives and who purchase 2 Travelmax International products or services from the company at wholesale. That's B.
Okay.
1 through B.
Oh, you can have C if you want.
No, that's all right.
You're done. Okay.
Now, you say you searched the material. Does this either refresh your recollection or help educate?
Doesn't change my analysis at all.
What is there about this language that you don't understand? It seems to me in plain English,
I used
it
that
says
piece.
There's 2, and if not 3 ways that you can qualify for your personal volume as you would with Amway or Shackley. You can't, this specifically says you can buy it at wholesale for resale, or you can be an order taker and you can sell it.
Before I could reach that conclusion, I would have to ask questions. In other words, first of all, my analysis is not just based on that piece of paper. It's based on the transcripts from the presentations and the video and other material. So I didn't rely solely on that piece of paper. The questions that I would want to know are, if I pay the $25, what is my cost of the package? What are the commissions I get on selling the packages?
Babs
How is
is
that
making me very
different
nervous right now.
from me actually
I'm, like,
becoming
super
a
uncomfortable.
full-fledged
And it's absolutely a
part
train
of the
wreck.
process? In other words, it strikes me
Same.
that if I pay the $25 and I now have to buy a product to sell a product, I don't see where that's different from the person who forget the $25. That's what it's all about anyhow, is get somebody to buy the product.
Right.
So I don't understand how that person is in any way differentiated. I couldn't figure that out.
Okay. You understand now, in many companies, you can be both a purchaser of wholesale product, or you can be an order taker and merely take an order and sell.
You asking me to agree with
Give
the
that guy
statement
a
that in
cough
many
drop.
companies, you could be an order taker or a purchaser and user of the product? I don't know what companies you mean. I don't understand what you're talking about. I can't do it working for Walmart. I can't do it for,
Yeah, well, we're not talking about Walmart.
or which
Remember,
companies,
you're
which
here in the
situations.
multi-level marketing arena.
Okay, I would need to know
Babs.
which companies and which situations. I can't make a blanket statement.
The reason that you don't know is because you really don't know the direct selling industry.
Well, I think
Babs.
the reason I don't know is because you're generalizing to something that we agreed earlier is set up in a variety of ways, probably no 2 of which are the same.
Okay, Let's
That
talk
is
about
what
some
he
other
said
factors,
earlier at the
real
very
briefly,
beginning
and line
in
this up
episode
that,
1 that we
wanna
watched.
know, yeah, I think we agree that a company that has a buyback policy, that's good.
I would think that would be a positive thing, yes.
Company that has adopted a 70% rule, that's good.
I would think that would be a good thing.
Company that has in its policies and procedures supervisory responsibility requirements of its distributors, that's good.
I think having things in your policies and procedures are different than the actual activities that take place in an organization, but writing it down is a start.
That was a little bit of a burn from Dr.
Company that
P.
has a prohibition in its marketing materials against false earnings representations, that's good.
As long as it's enforced, it's good.
Yeah, as long as it's enforced.
If you are aware of the fact,
I feel like although this has already long passed, he's bringing up lots of the points because there's lots of things in today's multi-level marketing companies that are not enforced, and that is a point of contention I have.
which is in evidence, that the company has a compliance department that does do enforcement.
Maybe you can speak to this. Can a company get in trouble for having like a compliance department that, so like with the FTC has an act about deceptive business practices. And so the compliance department, some of the stuff in the compliance statements falls, like make sure that they're following the rules. If they don't enforce their own rules, it's hit or miss sometimes whether the FTC, I mean, they get in trouble with them. But is there generally something where businesses will get in trouble over stuff like that?
On distributor
He's
indiscretions when brought to its attention.
company
Would you say
internal
that's good?
rules are not the law.
I would need to,
Okay.
before I reach that conclusion, I would need to see what their actions are. If I myself looked at the relevant information and saw that their actions were what I expected them to be, that is, that when people acted in ways contrary to policy, someone identified that errant behavior and used carrots and sticks to get people to comply with policy, if those are the things I observed, then I would say that's good.
The company is never going to get in trouble with the government because they are not holding their distributors to company rules. He's answering another question. I'm going to ask him another question in a minute.
Disciplinary activity, suspensions, terminations, that would all be evidence.
If I saw evidence of that, if I could have access to evidence of that.
Well, let's assume there's evidence in trial that has taken
If the distributors are violating government regulations and laws, that is a horse of a different color.
place. You would say that was good.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm not asking you to assume it. There has been testimony and exhibit has been already introduced on this point.
Okay, I'm sorry. I have another question. This may be too broad. Is there ever a situation where the distributors are violating government regulations and laws and the government has no interest in enforcing their regulations and laws? Would the government ever get in trouble for not enforcing, or is it just public opinion?
Well, you are asking to assume it's true.
Yeah,
No, I don't assume it's true.
you don't assume it's true. And now I'm telling you it's true.
I still don't assume it's
Babs.
I didn't ask you to assume it's true.
Well,
I'm telling you
I guess I don't need to
it's
answer.
evidence.
Yeah, why does he need to answer if you're going to tell
If
him?
you ask me to agree, are you asking me to agree?
Now that you know it's in evidence, all I'm asking you is that good?
No, not necessarily.
Oh, not, you mean having a compliance procedure that takes disciplinary action, suspensions, terminations, or otherwise, as you
They
said,
don't
should be done.
always. They don't
You don't think
always.
that's a good idea?
I said that the procedure would be good as long as it's enforced. If I personally was asked to look at the situation, found evidence that it would be enforced, that would be good. You seem to be asking me to agree with the statement that someone has.
So regarding enforcing the rules, he says, nope, prosecutorial discretion. If the government doesn't want to enforce its rules, it doesn't enforce them. Lovely.
Entered into evidence that these things happen. Therefore, I should come to the conclusion that that's good. I can't agree with that statement.
Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Okay, Babs.
He didn't cover everything? Go ahead, Mr. Dovich.
You have these questions. To whom did you address them?
I addressed some of my questions to Mr. Turner with regard to additional information.
And what did he tell you?
He said
These
that
lawyers are
options
so
that-
rude.
That go to.
I guess he's cut into these. I don't know. I'm not sure what's going on. Maybe this is the end. Or he taped over his own video.
Substantial levels.
Your Honor, the document speaks for itself. We can, you know,
I agree. It speaks for itself. Sustain.
So it's not unusual, would you say, in the industry?
Sorry guys. I think he taped over his own video.
To offer various package options to new distributors when they join.
He taped over his own video. And he didn't include. So we know that that was definitely edited specifically by someone on Mr. Bounder's team. And he took out, I'm guessing, good parts for Dr. Keep. Fiddlesticks. Okay. So he says, example, most of us will go over 5 miles per hour over the speed limit our whole lives and never get pulled over for it. Okay. I mean, that's a good point. What are, not obviously, in situations where we see businesses not enforcing the rules that potentially violate regulations and laws, and the government or the regulating bodies are not enforcing their own rules, is there a good recourse for that? Or is there what do you think is the best way to do that? He's answering in the comments, in the live chat. Call your elected representatives. So you've worked as an intern back in the day, right? Did you ever see that someone's calls changed a senator's or representative's mind? It's the best way to engage, make yourselves heard. I know that some of the people I've talked to don't feel like they are going to be heard. So I'm not sure. If they're doing nothing, work to get someone else elected. And that's a good point. Is it unreasonable to think that someone would run on a campaign that was against multi-level marketing? I don't know. I guess it seems like we're a small... Sorry, my camera is shaking. we're small fishes in a very big pond of a lot of other issues that seem to be louder than people getting taken advantage of and losing money. And one more plug for about the justice system in general. When you're called to jury duty, show up. Jury trials are one of our most important rights. I think that point is definitely driven home recently with what happened in the civil trial with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, for sure. Well, that is the end of our 3-part series, and I'm really thankful to the replay crew. I'm thankful to the people who hung out with us in the live chat. I hope you enjoyed listening to this OG footage of Dr. Keep as in the multi-level marketing trial, Travelmax. From what I understand, Travelmax is no longer around. So even though they lost this, is it called a judge hearing? Or what's a bench hearing? Not every multi-level marketing company lasts for a long time. So I will maybe I won't see you, but I will see you on the next live stream or next video upload. Again, big thank you to the replay crew and the live chat. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, I'd love to have you subscribe. And if you did like this video and if you enjoyed this video, I'd love for you to like it. And if you're already subscribed, if you want to turn on the bell notification. And I hope you have a good rest of your day or evening, and I'll see you next time.